The mandatory sessions.
And how many grants, how many applications we got for this round? And then we'll wait till Blair gets here to talk about the specifics.
Sure. So I believe we had 13 total.
Okay.
And the bulk of them were for housing. I'm still waiting to see if he's coming in.
The other thing we could just talk about, because it involves your calendars, we're going to need a meeting in October. And if you look at your calendars, Minnie says she's 10 minutes away. She's got a work meeting that's still going on.
Okay, here comes Blair.
Okay, good. Okay, well, I'll wait and we'll just start the regular agenda then, since we have Blair and we can vote on the minutes. Is he here? Blair, are you here?
I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Great.
Okay, very good. I'm sorry about, I was just in the middle of finishing up painting out here, but I can be on the meeting. My bad.
Well,
Sorry.
you make our quorum, so.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
So let's talk about the minutes for the July 7th. Has everyone had a chance to read those?
Yes, and I can make a motion to approve them.
Great. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. All those in favor? Steve?
Aye.
Sue?
Aye.
Clara?
I was not there, so
You abstain.
abstain.
Blair?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Okay, so we want to start off with a financial report for what happened in fiscal year 25. And just make sure we know where we are with that. So Lindsay, you want to tell us what our revenue was that year and how we approved the appropriations and the status of those grants? You're muted, Lindsay.
Sorry about that. So in FY25, we had $3,552,812 of revenue. So the CPA surcharge was approximately $3 million. And then there was there wasn't a state match that year. Actually, that's not accurate. Sorry, I'm looking at this, the town report. There was investment, there was interest and income that we earned was $481,000. So we had a total of about 3.5 million in FY25.
And that was the year we spent 7.9 million.
Yes,
And some of the money from the prior years.
yes. So 2024, we had about 4 million in revenue, and there was almost 4 million in 2023 in revenue. So last year we gave out 796,000 that was appropriated.
Okay.
And
Okay.
this year, okay.
Yeah, let's focus on that year and what's happened that year. We've had a bunch of grants that have started to expend money. Some of them have done very well. Some of them had shovels in the ground almost immediately. The most notably, the All Saints Parish Church. And we I know that's listed under the activity since the last, but I'd like to discuss it if we don't mind under this financial, so we know where we just keep the whole year together. Can you put that report up? I know you sent us something.
Sure. Okay, can you see my screen?
Yep.
Okay, so these were the FY25 projects. The redevelopment of Walnut High, we're still waiting for a signed agreement with the BHA. We're just waiting for them to meet and sign it. Last I talked with Hannah Kilson, the attorney for BHA. She said they were gonna have a board meeting to discuss this and sign it. So I do anticipate it coming fairly shortly.
And
The
I've already signed it on behalf of the committee.
Yes. The Egmont Street roof repair, they actually started expending some of their funds. They have issued an RFP, and they also picked a designer to start their project. BCDC, their rental assistance program, they've actually expended more than the $50,000. I did receive some invoices on the last quarterly report, which was due on July 14th. However, there was just some missing documentation that I needed before I would process the payment. So I'm waiting for that. And I believe it was an additional like $25,000 that they've expended on this. So their Boylston Street project, they had an RFP for a general contractor. This was issued, construction had started. They have an anticipated completion date of 1/15/2026, and electrical upgrades have begun, and they've already expended $226,000. The Beacon Street project has begun as well. They've expended $81,717. They have selected a general contractor, and the masonry on the front facade is 100% complete. All Saint Parish, they've been doing the best by far as expending funds and reporting. They've spent $535,469 and change. They're working through design and started some construction. The Devotion House has not started or expended any funds. I
This
believe
is the window, right?
Yes.
Okay.
There was a contractor that was, I don't want to say selected, but they had worked with to see if they'd be able to do the restoration work. And I guess it just wasn't in their wheelhouse to do restoration work. Building department was leading this project, and now it's been handed over to preservation. And Tina McCartney is going to be administering this project, and she's working on selecting a contractor to do the restoration. The Lars Anderson landscape report, no funds have been expended to date. They're working with staff to prepare an RFP. I believe they had an RFP that went out, and preservation had reviewed it, and it didn't seem to match the scope that was submitted with their original grant application. So I believe preservation staff was working with DPW to just work out the kinks in their RFP. So the tree inventory project is actually complete. They expended $130,301. Neely has actually asked me, she sent over a quote today for some work to be done. She was looking to make an amendment to the project, and she wanted to add the addition of a few parks. I can pull that up so I can tell you which ones exactly they are. Are you able to see my screen?
No.
The
This
current
is,
screen,
no,
It's the current one. Okay.
the tree inventory, one of the projects on it.
Okay.
And I know there's a tree inventory assessment in the new round that they've asked for more funds.
Yes.
Yeah, but that's not this one. Let me look at my email and I can tell
Yep.
you.
Now your other screen
it
is
here.
up.
Yep.
Now-
Oh, you got it. Okay.
So she's requesting, there's a quote here, I provided it with the other meeting materials. The estimated work is a little less than $7,000. And this is to inventory Baker School, Hayes, Runkle, and a portion of Lars. So if the committee wanted to make a vote on this tonight to amend their FY25 application to include these parks, we can certainly do that. She will in the future be sending me another quote to inventory New Lincoln, Sewell, Baldwin School, along with Lawrence and Winthrop, and she expects that to be around $10,000. The quote that she did provide is only good for 45 days. So I do think it's important to vote on this, whether the committee would like to amend the application to include these parks
Schools, yeah.
to schools, to inventory.
Okay. I think this is just, a modification of the grant application. I don't think we have to go to town meeting. It's within the appropriation. It's within the scope and the purpose. So I don't see a problem. Can we just take down the report so that we could discuss this for just a minute?
Yes.
Does anyone else have an issue or a problem with this?
Well, just to understand, so this is to amend the previous grant, which you said is now complete, but in your expenditure chart, they had not expended anywhere near the full grant.
It's to amend the agreement we had with them to, for 380,000 was appropriated for certain things, and we want to just amend it to include those three, Baker, and
Right, but what I'm asking is there money left of that 380,000 that they had not expended?
yes, there's plenty of money left. They've only
Okay,
130,000.
okay.
So they have, 250,000 approximately left. So,
Sue's raising her hand.
I see her, Sue.
Well, I would just like to hear a little bit more, like, why was the estimate so off? I have no problem if they want to do a broader scope, but I guess it just is curious to me that it came in like at a third of what they had anticipated spending. And then I also don't quite understand, like, the process for amending a previous award. So I understood you, Nancy, saying that it was authorized by town meeting because of the size of the award being the 387,000, whatever it was. But was the scope described in a way that would make the modification appropriate?
If I could just jump in, I think that in the scope, they named the parks or the schoolyards that they were going to use the money to inventory. And as I understand it, these are not on the list. Is that correct, Lindsay? The ones they're asking for now?
That is correct. And as far as why is it so different in price, I mean, I didn't ask her, I can certainly ask her, but my guess would be there weren't as many trees to inventory that they had to inventory, in certain species, depending on, it wasn't just an inventory of the tree, it was like the health of the tree. So my assumption would be that the trees there were less trees and less documentation.
So does that, go ahead, Claire.
I would also say, I think they didn't get bids. They sort of guessed. And I think they were off. In addition, they were off on their guess,
Right.
to be quite honest.
So does that mean that they're asking for another $70,000 in the new round of grants? Does that mean that could come out of what's left of the 300,000 that they have not
Yes.
spent?
They're not asking for additional money. They're just asking to spend the money that was appropriated for these things.
Okay. that's
They're
helpful.
asking to modify the description of the work to include more, as I understand it.
Right.
And and they still come under the
Way-
amount they requested, correct?
Yes, correct. And we do have a mechanism, it's in the grant agreements, it's in the MOAs that states if they need to make some type of modification or change, they just need to come to the committee 30 days before they're looking to do so. And then the committee can just make that vote. And it's up to the committee to decide, is it within the scope? Is there money already that's there? And then I think it's not necessary to bring it back to town meeting because again, it's the same scope of project. They're just expanding the locations and there's more than enough funds. They could have expended all the funds and then came back and said, we want to expand it and we're looking for more funds. And in that case, I think it would be different and they may have to possibly go back to town meeting to do that.
Right, to get an additional appropriation.
Sure.
I think this is within the scope and it's within the purpose of the grant. And the reason we can't do we can't approve tonight, the reason we want to approve tonight, if the committee is willing, the $7,000 for the 3 schools, is because they got the quote and there's a 45-day period, but they haven't gotten the quote on the other one yet, and we don't know what it is. We're assuming it's around 10,000, which would also be well within the project budget. So we'd have to vote that next meeting, basically.
But they said it was $10,000. That must have been just a verbal quote or something.
That's just a guesstimate. Right.
Well, I would be in favor of supporting this, and I assume we're still going to get money back. And I read some of the proposals, but I didn't see another one for tree inventory for this round. Is there one,
Yeah,
Lindsay?
there is for 70,000. That's why I was asking. That looks like that could come out of the previous grant as well. There's still plenty of money left, even with these $7,000 and $10,000 additions.
I haven't looked at whether or not that the purpose it's called the same, but I haven't looked as to whether or not there are differences in what's going to be done. So we could look at that and, talk to them about it next time and, perhaps subsume that one under this grant, under this appropriation, which would, relieve some of our, the financial burden. This time the number is is pretty high in terms of what's being asked for. So we'll have to just see how that looks. And Lindsay, if you could make a recommendation to us in September, on September 8th, I think is the meeting. Then we can decide on that one and the $10,000 for the other 3 projects that they haven't told us exactly what they are yet. And the exact and the amount of money. I think we need to know the amount of money. So we have an expectation of what is proposed. So how do we want to proceed here? Clara said she's in favor. Of anybody else like-minded about this?
Yeah, I am.
I'm okay with it. I don't exactly agree with the assumption that it falls within the scope, but we have the budget for it and I don't really have a problem with it. So
Well,
I'm gonna vote.
modification is what is allowed under the grant, it's anticipated. And so, but the committee does have to vote it. Blair, what do you think? Are you there, Blair?
Well,
He
he's
went
muted.
off to do some more painting.
He might still be
So
cleaning
now
up.
we have Minnie, so we still have.
Minnie's
No,
here.
and I literally joined right towards the end, so I won't even know exactly what.
We're talking about, I know. So let me give you a real quick update, which is that under the tree inventory from the fiscal first round of grants, we had allocated and appropriated $380,000 they've only spent 130, and they basically completed the ones that they mentioned in the grant itself. But now they have 3 other schools for 7,000 that they want to add, and they have another in the future at next meeting, 10,000 approximately. That's the one they don't really have a quote about. So, and since our agreement with them specifies that modifications are allowed, and that it's not changing the money that the town meeting allocated, and it's not changing the purpose, which is the tree inventory, we can do that modification by a vote. So we're proposing to do that tonight because the proposal that they got is a 45-day period and will expire before September 8th. So we want to make sure we get under the wire for that one.
And I also just want to make clear that there is a current proposal for $70,000 to do more tree inventory that I think also, if many didn't hear this, also could come out of that previous $300,000+ grant.
We have 250,000 approximately left in that particular appropriation. So it's possible to accomplish all of this stuff under the same one, with the same purpose, and within the appropriation, we can make the modifications. So let me just call for a vote here, formal vote. So is there someone who wants to make the motion?
I'll move it.
I'll
Okay.
second it.
Okay, so Sue moves and Clara seconds.
And this is for the 7,000, the
This is
first
for
one.
the 7,000, right. So all those in favor, Steve,
Yes.
or opposed or abstaining, Steve.
Yes.
Okay, Sue,
Aye.
Clara,
Yes.
Minnie,
Yes.
Blair. You need to speak, Blair.
He's got his thumb up.
I know he's got his thumb up, but for the
You're not,
report,
you're,
It's being recorded, so you have to say.
all right, well, apparently he can't say, but he's in favor with his thumb. And the chair votes aye, and we have a quorum enough, so I guess he has a problem with the sound.
You can put it into the chat, right?
Okay, okay. The chat's good enough. That's that we can work with that. Okay.
And can I just add, Lindsay, when you talk to the person who's submitting this, I would hope that they would understand it would be much better to just take it out of if they're getting good prices now and they don't have to be propose a much larger number than they need. It would be great if they could just add it on to this.
The one that they're asking for?
The
You mean
70,000, if that can be covered by this grant and they can get a quote quickly enough.
Okay, I'll find out.
I mean, that's the way I'm
Sure.
thinking, but
Mhm.
I don't know if Steve and Susan and Minnie.
well, I actually have another thought that came to me as I remember that we had all these parks and recreation projects, which none of which had any outside funding, and they were all town projects. But it occurred to me as I was reviewing these grant proposals this afternoon, including more tree inventory and green infrastructure at Lois Anderson, I remember in past days there was something called the Land and Water Conservation Fund. And maybe Clara, you remember projects involving this, and I sort of looked it up, and there, you know, and I don't know what the federal government is doing these days, but there is
Not much.
that there's a Massachusetts, you know, version of it, which, you know, these kinds of projects are eligible, and you know, the kinds of applicants that are eligible include municipalities that have an up-to-date open space and recreation plan. Well, guess what? If we don't already have one, we will have one soon. So I'm wondering if the town has, you know, whether there's simply no money or, you know, whether the town just doesn't, it's not worth applying. And maybe Clara or Lindsay or Kara, I mean, I know this is not Kara's bailiwick exactly. Is this not a source worth trying to tap as a matching fund?
Sure, I tell you, Steve, that one of the big things with that grant, same with like the Massachusetts Park Grant, is your low to moderate income population. So I would tell you right there, that would be, Brookline wouldn't, you know, be able to meet that. And there's a few other criterias, like if you have a large environmental justice population or areas. So it's not that it can't. And I know David brought this to DPW with the Lars Anderson project and said, you know, what are you doing to get grants, and brought all these out to them. So they're certainly aware of all these grants and will use them whenever they can. But there is certain criteria for them, and not
Okay,
to say that Brooklyn can't get anything, but it's unlikely for, you know, depending on the project.
their rubric would probably not rate us highly, I guess that's what
Yes.
you're saying.
Yeah, yes.
Okay, all right, I just thought I'd bring that up.
Well,
Good to
glad you did.
get
We
that
should,
response.
you know, we should keep our eyes on whatever funding is out there. I mean, we know that the government is.
Chelsea gets a lot of those grants. I've done parks for Chelsea, so it is really aimed at low and environmental justice. And I think maybe 40 years ago, even the then Devotion neighborhood might have even qualified, but no longer.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
So I guess at this point in time, just to be clear, we only voted for the 7,000, and then whatever else comes up, we consider it at that point in time. And
Yes.
whether it falls within our existing grant agreement.
Yeah.
Kind of.
That's what we want to, you know, aim for September if we can get it. September 8th is our next meeting. So want to aim to, you know, first of all, it's a lot easier, I think, to inventory stuff in the milder weather. We don't want to be inventorying it in December and January. You know, we hopefully that can happen.
Mhm.
Okay, can we continue with that? Can you put the rest of that up, Lindsay? But I got distracted on that inventory issue. Minnie, we're just reviewing where the status of the grants from the first round are. And, you know, as you can see, All Saints has really gone to town. They've expended a lot of their money. It looks like they may be done by the end of the year, this fiscal year. Okay, but Devotion House is not a problem. Oh, so we're next we're at the public health plaza.
Yeah, so two of the staff members who were the lead on this project, neither of them work for the public health department anymore. And I haven't been able to get in contact with somebody to let me know who will be working on this project, and they haven't expended any funds. And Halls Pond, they had withdrew. So that is the status for our FY25 project.
So the question, I guess, comes up as to when Halls Pond actually withdrew. Do we wait until the end of this fiscal year to say, okay, they've withdrawn, they haven't changed their mind, and they're not going to spend any money, and we flip it back to the budgeted reserve? Should that be our procedure, or should we just do it when they've given us the withdrawal in writing, which they have? I don't know the answer to that.
Nancy, are you talking about one particular project or all of them?
I'm talking about Halls Pond,
Okay.
which is a small little project. It's $3,500, and but they withdrew because the volunteers were going to be doing that, but that just didn't work out. So then DPW was going to do it, and they did some, but because they're not listed in the grant application, they couldn't be paid. So it's like, you know, I think somebody will have to do a new application for Halls Pond. That's what's going to have to happen if they want to continue that and make it viable by having, I guess it's DPW. Clara, are you clear about how that work goes, or who gets that work done? It's not Parks and Rec.
If you're talking about Halls Pond, they just withdrew it because you can't use the funds to pay the DPW. That's what they had hoped for when they
Right.
couldn't get the volunteers. So I don't know the official mechanism to withdraw it, but they do want to withdraw.
Well, the $3,500 was not to pay any particular person. It was for materials.
Yeah, and they had already bought the material through the town or something. It was too small amount of money, from what I understood, for them to do all the paperwork needed, and it was a mess, to tell you the truth. They couldn't get what they're doing to fall within the guidelines of the CPA grant, so they withdrew it. And Lindsay, isn't that how you understood it?
Yes, and they did formally, they withdrew it, so it'll just go back into the general fund, because that's
Right.
where it came
We
out of.
Notify the comptroller or the treasurer or whoever actually makes that step. And furnish them with a copy of the withdrawal. Okay, so that's where we are with the fiscal year 25 grants, which we worked on in fiscal year 24. It's always so convenient, so convoluted. But it's important to know that there is work being done, and a couple of them look like they'll be finished. Some of the housing ones may be finished as well for the end of the 2-year period. So that's really great.
Nancy, I have to say I have serious doubts about the public health plaza because they did not have a professional engineer or landscape architect on board. They were convinced they could get someone to do the drawings. It's a lot of work, and my hat's off to them if they get someone to volunteer for it. But
Yeah, it's also a sloping site. It's not exactly an easy.
right, and they need a survey, and they don't have any money for a survey, but they were convinced they can do it. But I have, we can't say, no, you can't do it if they thought they could do it, but
Yeah.
I can see that one being declined or
Is
withdrawn.
there, is there some, it seemed like a worthy project, and it's a, high impact in terms of the number of people because of its right borders Harvard Street, et cetera. So I'm wondering whether there's any way that we can do a modification of the grant to limit it to a survey and all these other things that they need, which are clearly eligible. And maybe just, those may be items that are actually part of the project. And if they spend those and they don't have enough money, they could just come back another year. You know what I mean?
This is
Yeah.
maybe an off the wall idea, but there's a couple $100 million worth of work going on, totally remaking the Pierce School and the surrounding site, and with Sasaki Associates, the landscape architect, finding a way to, it's a very nice way of bringing people up from School Street up to the upper level, where the main entrance plaza is going to be. I wonder if the school committee or the town, I'm on the Pierce School Building Committee, I can raise this issue, whether there might be a modification to that contract to do some site work, some site planning for this other, because we're losing, in effect, a connection that used to be available from Harvard Street, some steps that went up to that school plaza. I was a Pierce School parent. And it might be worth looking to see whether there's enough left in a design contingency, let alone a construction contingency, to at least come up with a design for that space.
Steve, are you part of the Pierce School building?
Yes, I am on the Pierce School Building Committee,
That's perfect.
among my other hats.
Well, that's good. You could raise the issue.
I will do that.
I would also, I speak with Helen a lot about the project. She just keeps me informed because I'm interested, so I can speak.
Sean is waving a finger.
Yeah, I see him. Sean.
If you don't mind my jumping in on this particular point, I'm not quite sure, but some of this may have happened already. A couple of months ago, I asked Sigal, because I've been following the progress or lack of progress on the Public Health Plaza, was it going to happen and what the timetable was. And if I remember, she said, it's going to happen. I talked to Aaron about potentially integrating it into some of the re-landscaping that's happening with the Pierce School. Maybe Clara knows more about this as well, but I think it would be worth checking to see if there's any memory of that conversation from Aaron and what might be, happening there, because maybe some people have already explored the idea that Steve just raised.
Well, I've certainly not heard it in a Pierce School Building Committee meeting, but
when this was first raised as a project, I talked to Aaron and said, could, the landscape architects on the town staff design this? Because I didn't quite understand how this project was going to have its professional input. And she said, absolutely not. Their staff was overworked as it was. But I think if the problem is, Sean, as I see it, there's no one in the health department that can manage construction projects. So you need someone to get the survey done. You need someone to design it. You need someone to oversee the construction, And so if it can be integrated, and Erin might have changed her mind. That the conversation I had with her was, over a year ago. But I think how integrating it in with the school is a great idea, because they just don't have the professional oversight that's needed for a project. I think
If I remember correctly, my conversation with Sigal was at the town's Memorial Day event. So I can give a very precise date to it, but it was still a little bit unclear what would happen moving forward. But Sigal said they were holding off. They couldn't really do anything. They wanted to explore this option that Aaron had suggested.
What if we, Steve, with your Pierce School hat on, we would pay for it, obviously, this money would pay for it. But if we could integrate it with and I don't know what the bidding rules are here, and whether we could have Sasaki do it, or we would have to bring somebody else in, which would probably make it more expensive. But so there's a few issues there, I think.
yeah, Lindsay, could you just remind me what's the budget that was allocated, and was it just for design?
Like 195?
Yes, it was 193,500, and that was supposed to be for all of that, for design and construction.
Design and
That's not gonna-
construction.
I know, that's what we went back and forth with them about this too, on their quote, and then I had a meeting with Alexandra, and they were just like, well, just give us the number and we'll just create the project to that figure. So
Yeah, I don't know what Blair and Claire think, but 193,000 sounds like more than enough for design, but not nearly enough for design and construction. It looks like we've lost. It looks like he's still out
I
painting.
agree. Steve, it's a sloping site. They wanted to do a retaining wall. I just had no idea how they got that number. It looked
Mhm.
my old firm wouldn't have
Pulled out
done it
of
for
thin
that
air.
much. I don't know.
Well, however they did it, that's what has been appropriated, but if it can be used for design and they come back for construction, I don't have
Yeah.
I think that was.
I will definitely raise that. I think I'll send an email to Helen, and I guess the co-chair these days is still Bernard Green.
Right.
And
Somebody from the building commission too, I don't know who it would be.
yeah, okay.
I
will
think it's
definitely-
more than enough for design
Yeah.
and a survey, but not enough. It's probably a $450,000 construction job off the top of my head, maybe 300. I don't know, but not 200,000.
right. Okay, I'll follow up on that.
Okay, great, we have a plan. That's terrific. Okay, anybody have any plans for the other projects? Okay, I guess not. We know that Walnut High will not be done by the end of the 2 years. That we always knew that. And, Sue, I don't know if you can give us any indication of whether the tax credits are coming through or whether.
Well,
They-
we really can't say whether they're coming through, but I think that the landscape has changed a little bit because there were some amendments in the recently passed big ugly bill that affected how the tax credits are allocated throughout the states. So it's possible that that could open things up in terms of moving things forward. And we're hopeful for that. But there's a couple of steps that need to be followed, and we don't really have a good read on that right now.
Right, all right, well, we've always known it's gonna take a few years, at least, at the very least. Okay, so, any other comments about fiscal year 25? So this is the first round of grants that we did. Okay, so now we need an update on the fiscal year 26 grants, which is the one we just got passed through town meeting in June, or the May town meeting, it's called. So excuse me, Lindsay, you want to give us an update on those grants?
Sure. So, all of those grant agreements and MOAs have been submitted to the comptroller and the town administrator for signing. The only one that I did not receive was for the chemical firehouse. They're still reviewing the grant agreement. Otherwise, everything else is out there and will be ready to commence.
Okay, we've done our part by signing the agreement, so we're just waiting for other people. Okay. Okay, so then we can move on to the fiscal year 27 eligibility applications. And we need to discuss the eligibility status of these projects. There are a couple of projects that didn't get submitted, like the one for the golf course lighting. I guess they just decided, it was unlikely, and or maybe, they read more carefully. So dubious eligibility. So we didn't have as many as I thought we would, but do you have a list of those, Lindsay, that you can put up?
I do. Hold on one. Sorry, I'm getting a network error on my computer when I'm trying to pull them up. Would you like me to just pull one and we'll start looking, go through it? Do you
Yeah.
want to do a certain category?
Yeah, whatever you can.
Okay, so we have the temple.
Lindsay, you didn't send us this list, did you?
No, I did not send a list, but I did send a link to find all the eligibility applications that were online. So they are all online.
Lindsay, I think you probably gleaned from my multiple emails. I could not access using your link the eligibility application. So I don't know what the problem is, but I was not able to do that.
So I understand from Lindsay that a few people had issues with it, and part of the problem is that the town has revised its system, and it's made it a little more confusing for those of us who are trying to use it, and I'm very frustrated as well. So, but I thought that it might, one of the things we could do at our next meeting is have Lindsay walk us through how we get to various things. Because I'd like to rename some of the things so that it's clearer what they are. Rather group all the 25 things together, the 26 things together, the 27 things together, but I'd like a summary of each of those. So in other words, when I open up fiscal year 25 and I see the applications and I don't have to, I can't just figure out quickly how much we allocated for each applicant. That's a lot of work. So if we can maybe even just put in the list from the warrant that was approved, that would take care of it, you know. We could just go to the warrant, see the list of what was approved and the amount of money. And for those of us who just need a quick, you know, comparison there, rather than the details of the application. And then if we need to look at the details, we can look at it. But I'd like some summary so that members can just, and the public as well, can just quickly look and see what was done and what was allocated. So I'd like that for both 25 and 26 and going forward as well.
Yeah,
And but I think maybe if Lindsay could give us a tutorial at our next meeting, that would help.
I was able to find it through the link, but you have to hunt around for it. The link is to like all of the documents for the CPA, and then you have to start finding the right place on the list to
It's
open it up.
confusing, very confusing.
I know,
Yeah,
there's
I'm
no,
one of the ones
yeah.
who emailed Lindsay and I sent her a screenshot saying, tell me where on this I would find it. And then she's like, okay, it's on that. And then that's how I got it.
Yeah, there's no way I can send a direct link to it. It's like I can only send you a link to the page where you have to dig through the folders, unfortunately.
And by the way, you know, I did find even within that link, I did not see anything for the old burying ground. I saw the individual applications, but not that one. And then as Lindsay knows, I had issues with the United Parish thing. I kept getting unreadable things, but I finally muddled through it.
I
All right,
can-
well, we can, I think it would be useful. Maybe Lindsay will have an opportunity to put some summaries there for each of the fiscal years. You know, even a page like this, what projects were submitted, what was funded, how much, what category, etc. And I think this kind of, I don't know whether the town would let you put this on there, but I think it would be helpful under each of the fiscal years. So that people can look at it and get the lay of the land. That's for September 8th, some training. And I would also like to mention, just while I'm thinking about it, to Steve and Minnie, that I'm hoping you'll be able to come to September 8th with the evaluation rubric recommendations. So we could maybe vote on that as well.
I will have to get past my summer ignoring of it.
Okay.
Same here, you know. I first of all, today I was frantically starting to actually pull together some of the pieces.
Okay, okay.
So yes,
Yeah,
we
so
will come to
September
the.
doesn't work. We're going to have to add an October meeting, so we'll talk about that under other business, and we can always, you know, flip that to October. We won't need it before then anyway. Okay, but let's focus now on the eligibility applications for the current year, and this would be fiscal year 27. Because we are funding them in July of next year, which would be fiscal year 27, even though right now we're in fiscal year 26. Okay, Lindsay, can you tell us about these projects?
Yes, so we have United Parish, they're looking for restoration of their steeple tower. They're requesting 800,000 with a total project cost of 2.5 million. The project is certainly eligible. Temple Sinai, they are looking to restore some masonry. They're looking for $130,000. It's $150,000 project total. They are eligible, however, they will need to go to preservation because they are not on the national or state historic register.
And have you informed them of that?
Yes, and it's a, you know, fairly simple process. I spoke with Tina about it. She doesn't think there would be any issue in preservation deeming this historically significant. The old burying ground tomb restoration, it's certainly eligible. They're seeking $750,000.
Let me just, I caught an email on, but it was a month ago and summer has kind of taken over my brain. But apparently there's a tomb, or fragments of a tomb that are stored in a building and there of a woman who was very prominent in Brookline in the years when the old burying ground was first established. And so people are on the trail of her tombstone, and maybe this is part of the restoration. I don't know that, but I know that it is popping up as an issue, an historic preservation issue.
Lindsay, can
It
I
is.
ask you a question? Is this where they're, I forget, the old burying ground is where they got a grant to do the fence restoration.
That's
Correct. The
That's
Foster
correct.
fence. Yes.
Thank you.
Yep. And this is listed on the National Register. The Muddy River Bridge assessment, it's eligible. The bridges that they're looking to do the assessment on are all part of the Emerald Necklace, and those are on the National Register. Those are seeking $200,000.
Lindsay, I'm assuming now, these are also called the stone bridges. I know some of you may have heard of them called that. And I think that there's only one that's completely in Brookline, if I'm reading it correctly. And then there's some that have one half in Brookline. Is that correct?
Yeah, and then the other half's in Boston. And I know there's been a lot of back and forth with people from Brookline trying to get in touch with members from Boston to see if they'll do their piece of assessment and whatnot. And I don't think there's been any real commitment by Boston to do this, but Brookline's certainly wanting to start and take an assessment. And I think the idea is if they start some movement on this, then maybe Boston will follow.
Right, that's the hope. And I know it's a priority of the, I believe, of the Preservation Commission, or I know some of the people there on the Preservation Commission. And it's an important project, and the stone bridges are in dire shape. So, I assume we'll hear more about it. So it would be split. This would be a split between historic preservation and open space. Okay, next.
D. Blakely Hoare Invasive Species Management. It's pretty much a continuation of the project that they had just submitted and was awarded. And the tree inventory assessment, same thing. Just various parks.
And that's the one we're thinking maybe could be subsumed under the original tree. Okay, we have to check that out.
Yeah, I'll look into that and ask her for the quote. Then we have Lars Anderson. It was a green infrastructure assessment. And they're seeking $500,000 for that. It is. I'm sorry, what was that?
What does that mean, green infrastructure? I mean, what are
It's drainage improvements, ecological restoration is what they're looking to do. So there's large expanses of open fields and playing fields, and it's there's a wet meadow there. I think they're looking to restore. So it's just kind of coming up with a plan on how they're going to, what they need to do as far as drainage, the infrastructure, carry out to restore that wet meadow.
possibly a conservation project as well? There's a wet meadow.
Yeah, I'm sure, like, that's something they could probably get a grant for, to restore a wet meadow, but I think this is just the assessment of it first.
I see.
And I know they did install a parking lot not too long ago, so I believe they've had some drainage issues because of that
Hmm.
or from that. So they're looking to use green infrastructure to solve that.
Right.
You would think they would have taken that into account when they built the parking lot.
Mhm.
They redid the road and added to the parking lot, and I think there are real problems with the civil engineer that was one of the consultants, and I think they thought they were getting something that they didn't get. And it looks pretty heavily engineered when they thought they were gonna get something that was much more environmentally sensitive, so. I'm not making excuses for them, I'm just saying that's what happened.
Okay, so,
So that was open space and recreation. And there was a total ask of 790,000 in open space and recreation. For community housing, that was our largest ask with $3,074,750. We had the HAB, they're requesting $1 million for their housing trust. It's certainly an eligible project. We have the Trustman roof replacement, and that's for 855,000, and it's a total project of almost $3 million. BHA is also requesting about 1.1 million for window replacement at High Street Veterans Complex. And again, that's out of a larger project of almost 4 million. And the planning department was looking to fund a senior housing planner position that would primarily work on, CPA eligible housing.
Lindsay, I thought we couldn't pay for town staff.
So you can't pay for town staff. I spoke with Stuart Saganor about this and asked him his opinion, because you can certainly pay for support staff. And his opinion was, if it's an existing position, then we can't use CPA funds to fund an existing position, right? We can't just use the general funds, but this position particularly was funded with CDBG funds, and the funding is just not going to be there in the future. So they were kind of looking for different avenues of how they could fund this. So Stuart, his opinion was, where it's not technically, if they create a new position that's just working on CPA eligible projects, you could make the argument that it's a new position and CPA could fund it. He says it's more of a local decision at that level, because there's the CPA Act it doesn't define exactly like what the type of position, if that makes sense. No.
I hear you. I think
Yeah.
it's like funding a position to me that exists. but-
yeah, I think some of us probably have some reservations, but we'll look at it more closely as we go ahead. I do think that the total is 5.5 million. And that's not how much we get every year. And we have to start living within our means here. Especially if we're going to retain, if we can, money for open space, as we've talked to open space advocates about, a purchase. So, I think that's going to be the trick here. We're going to have to probably cut some stuff out. And the question is, what's it going to be? But that's not a question that we ask at this stage. The question we ask at this stage is, are they eligible? And if we take the deepest dive we can into eligibility, I think we are at the point where we have to say, okay, yeah, these things are eligible. I agree with you, Clara, that funding a staff position, and, you know, when you get into the nuances like this, it gets hard, really hard to differentiate sometimes. And I don't like the idea that, you know, I mean, if we just say, no, we're not going to fund staff, I think it's a lot easier.
Because they'll need it every year. I mean, it's a
Yeah,
position
yeah,
for
no,
1
I
year.
know. And, you know, I haven't actually had a chance to review our plan and see what it says about funding staff. I think it says we're not gonna do it, but I'm gonna have to. Lindsay, have you had a chance to review that?
I didn't find anything in there that specifically spoke about the staff. I mean, you know, but it's more housing. There's not a lot of support in there as far as for community housing. It's more building new units, you know, adding more units to
Right.
what we have as a priority for
And
community housing.
the only project we have in that category is the Walnut High. I mean, that was, you know, which made it so worth. Steve?
Can I ask something? On that topic, I mentioned earlier that when I looked at the individual applications, I didn't see one for the old burying ground tomb restoration. On the other hand, among the individual applications, there was one called Public Housing Redevelopment Grant, which is not on the summary list, which is just up on the screen. And Sue Cohen may know something about this. I mean, the brief story there is they were looking for a total cost of $200,000 with $100,000 from CPA and $100,000 from BHA's own funds. And the goal of that is to look at the other state-funded Brookline Housing Authority projects, Trustman, Egmont, and High Street, and to look at their redevelopment potential along the lines of what's underway at Walnut High, which sounds like a very worthwhile activity. On the other hand, the question it raises in my mind, I don't know what the time frame of that is. This is probably not going to happen tomorrow, but at the same time, and I'm sure these are needed, you know, we are looking at requests for grants for they're doing the roof replacement at Egmont. Trustman Apartments, you know, on the next block, they're seeking grants for roof replacement at Trustman and window replacement at High Street, you know, to the tune of, you know, some of the larger requests. And I'm not saying I'm against any of them, but I'm sort of what, you know, what's the sort of the big picture in terms of, and you know, I'll be finished in a second, Sue. You know, what's happened at 32 Marion, you know, doubling the number of units on that site, doubling the number of units at Walnut High. I'm sure those opportunities exist in spades at these other sites, most of which are larger than Walnut High. High Street is twice the size of Walnut High. So I'll stop there. Those are the things that come to mind. Of course, I'm supportive of all this, but Sue, what do you have to add?
Well, first, just a little background, which is the state-assisted public housing is our family housing. And that's been a real problem in terms of access to sources of funds to do major types of redevelopment. If you wanted to analogize to Walnut High or 32 Marion, we just don't have the technical ability to access those funds. I mean, God knows what's going to happen on the federal level anyway, but putting that aside, this has been sort of like a motivation and a goal for me is to find the key that's going to turn the lock to unlock the potential in some of these family sites. And I think some of the most critical reactions from our residents have been residents in family housing, because the level of funding for those sites has been so low for so long. It's not enough in the federal side, but the state side has been starved, just starved. So there are different potential pathways to approaching these sites, and not necessarily like a tear down and rebuild. So I don't think we should assume that that's the outcome of any kind of review of this. But I think right away when our new director started. He came right from EOHLC. He's very aware of some of the technical difficulties in putting all the pieces of our puzzles together on the state-assisted public housing. And this would be a good way to start a really focused analysis of how to approach these sites and how we could best utilize the assets that we already have, which include the land that surrounds the property. So if you think, if you look at the projects over by Egmont and Trustman, we did build a whole new project on Dummer Street using land that we already owned. And that was sort of an infill project that created, new housing for families, affordable levels. And so the idea would be to do like an inventory or audit or an assessment of all of our sites and where they're located and what they could potentially hold. Doesn't mean we're going to take the investment that we've already made in the roofs or the windows or whatever that we've already funded. It doesn't mean we're going to throw that in the garbage. It means we're going to take that into account and look at what are the approaches that we could take. It's mostly about a financing strategy and figuring out ways that we could use some of the tools that we do have on the HUD side to create like a pipeline to addressing these really neglected sites. So I would just suggest, let's keep an open mind. It's like early in the process. I think the committee could get a better understanding of the merits of this approach. I particularly, when I heard about it, was really thrilled to hear that the Housing Authority was focusing on this as a kind of systemic issue. And I would hope that we could get the support of the CPAC.
Well, at minimum, it ought to be on the list of projects that we were just looking at.
Yes,
Well,
I'm glad you caught that, Steve, because I apologize and I just added it, updated it on
Okay.
there.
Good.
So one of the things I want to make sure is a very elementary observation, and I'm sure others have seen it already, is that, we don't want to be spending money on things that are going to be torn down and renovated. Where they're going to do some a window restoration at High Street. Is that on the, I want to make sure that that money is not in the path of the.
I don't think there's any assumption that we could make that any of that will be lost, because we really don't know what the approaches will be. And it could be that we could utilize the property around the existing buildings, or even eventually adding property that's adjacent to or near. I mean, there's a lot of different possibilities. But I certainly wouldn't worry about like wasting our money on stuff that is gonna not be utilized, because that's way down the road. And I think this is just trying to be thoughtful about how we approach these developments, and the ability to maybe add some new units. But we won't necessarily be tearing anything down. I don't think that's the idea. The idea is just to find the fund to make them more livable.
Right. Okay, well, as I say, we're gonna, 5.5 million is gonna exceed the amount of money we have to spend. Lindsay, do we have that amount? Were you able to figure out from the quick report? You're muted.
Adding that $1,000 for that grant, it's now 5.6 million ask.
Okay.
So, and based off of last year's revenue, we only had 3.5 million.
Okay, So we're gonna have to make some unhappy decisions, you know. Because obviously, we can't spend more than we get. So more than we have. Yeah, Clara, you're
My question is, and we've got a tiny bit of money back, but is there any indication, are we gonna get any of the grants we've made back that people, don't they have 2 years or do they have 3 years?
they have 2 years. So the first year is the only year we really can look at now. And we know we're gonna get back the Halls Pond of 3,500. But that's
Which is nothing, but
Yeah.
are there any other grants that we think aren't gonna be?
and the
available?
tree inventory is not gonna spend everything. So we know that there's some money there, but that could take care of 70,000 for this year, take it out of this year's pot and put it into that, and that prior grant, and then and so that will help the number a little bit this year, but not a lot. But sounds like we probably have to shave off a couple million here because of last year's revenue was only 3.5. So that's where we are, and we won't need to make that decision quite yet. There's ways to do it clearly, but it's not going to be easy, and I'm sure none of us are gonna like it because everything seems pretty worthy, but we're gonna have to do it and bite the bullet. The other thing I want to mention is that we also want to keep in mind how we're spending in terms of evening out the projects, the categories, according to our plan. Do you have that, Bill? Yeah. So I took this chart and I looked at historic preservation. You can just look at the fiscal year 2025, and we can see that housing got the lion's share, and then historic preservation, and then open space recreation. And I figured out that that historic preservation got 11.5% of the money for this year. Open space got 7.25%. There's a little bit rounded, but housing got 81.2%. So then we come to fiscal year 26, and the picture changed a little bit. The historic preservation was 29%, so that went up. Community housing went way up. Open space and recreation went way up to 59.9%, almost 60%. And community housing went down a lot to 11%. So we're ending up still not even. Still, community housing is at least 46% of the amount. And open space is at 33%, which is it could be a little bit more according to our plan, and historic preservation is only 25%. So we still have some, we want to still come out after 5 years with a relatively even thing. Our plan calls for open space is number 1, community housing is number 2, and historic preservation number 3. I kind of view it as, okay, maybe open space is 35 and housing is 30, 33, and historic preservation is 31, and that kind of makes up 100%. That's just a feeling. That's not according to our plan, but I'm just trying to figure out how we think of it going forward. So, that's the other consideration. And if we spend the lion's share again in community housing, we're going to have a harder time meeting our plan goals. Any questions about that?
So Nancy, it's a while since I've looked at the plan itself, but does the plan actually say that the town's intent is to spread the funds evenly across those three categories, or is that more of a desire of the committee? Or
Well, it
committee
doesn't
leadership?
say it evenly, and we have to keep in mind that it's not really an objective number, honestly. It's a subjective number because it was just based on the number of people who responded. And open space had a more positive responses. Housing came in second, and historic preservation came in third. But none of them were so far apart from each other that they're all in the same ballpark. And we also have to remember that this is a creation of CPA, is something the voters voted for. And when we were doing the campaign, and David has said this, he's sorry he can't be here tonight, but he said this, that we promised voters that we would be as even-handed as we could. So I think we need to, we may spend a little bit more in open space and, a little bit less in historic preservation with housing in the middle, but I don't think we want a huge disparity because the community members, there were lots of people who were in each category who wanted, who were, arguing for this and voting for this, and I think we need to keep that in mind.
Well, I mean, it's clear that I'm a housing advocate. I mean, I'm also representing the Housing Advisory Board. It's also clear that housing is something that we need, and housing costs a lot of money. And so it's not surprising that we see these millions of dollars being sought for projects to maintain our existing 50, 70 or older year family state-funded public housing projects, which have suffered from, woefully inadequate maintenance. And that we've given money also to private nonprofits like the BCDC for their properties. And clearly, we don't have enough money to grant all the funds that are being sought in the current round. But I don't feel that we should be arbitrarily saying, well, we'll give open space and recreation all that they've asked for and take everything out of housing because we're trying to even the score.
Yeah, but Steve, the first round, we gave housing the lion's share of the money. And
Yeah,
so,
which also was basically leverage for even more money from other sources, which is
true.
another thing that these housing
We have
grants
to
do.
recognize a few things, Steve. One is that we are not going to solve, CPA itself is not going to solve the housing problem. We're going to contribute some money. Hopefully we're going to build some new units. We're going to do what we can to allocate our funds in a fair way. But there are many people in the town who also value open space and value historic preservation. And, they may value housing as well. But I think most people will say to you, I attended a meeting of people who are advocating for an open space project, a recreation project recently. And, I said to them that so far the CPA has expressed its interest in, having a balanced approach. And they were very appreciative of that. And I think everybody the people I talk to anyway, are appreciative of that. So I think we have to keep that in mind. And we are not going to solve, even though housing costs much, open space costs much more. I mean, to buy land is like gold. So we know that CPA is just a little cog in the wheel. We're just a little bit, we're able to do a little bit. We only have a 1% surcharge on the property tax. If we ever wanted to increase that, we would have to go back to the voters. And, so other communities have 3%, which, gives them a lot more money, but we don't have that much. In the scheme of life, the money we have is not gigantic. And if you look at this year, I'm pleased to say, Lindsay, could you just put up the list of the projects again this year? I'm pleased to say that many of these projects in historic preservation, in open space, some of them have pretty substantial. The Pressman roof replacement, for instance, has a pretty substantial match, as well as the window replacement has a match.
That's the point I was trying to make, that a lot of those housing
Yeah.
grants get
But-
substantial leverage other funds.
Yeah, but the United Parish also has a huge match. The other historic preservation fund projects that we've done so far have had big matches. So housing isn't the only one. It's true, it's a lot of money, but as you say, housing costs a lot. But I don't think that we can't assume that because housing costs X amount more and we can't spend X amount more from CPA. That wasn't how it was designed. So I think we need to stick to a pretty balanced approach. That's my view of it. And I think that that's supported by people in the town overall. And yes, there are many housing advocates who would say, let's spend it all on housing. And there's many open space and recreation advocates who would say, oh, we really need that. Let's spend it all on that. And there are many historic preservation advocates who would say, oh, no, we really need to preserve our historic assets. So, there's tension there. And really the only way to resolve it is to be even-handed about it, or relatively even-handed about it. I'm not saying we have to, I don't think spending 80% on housing and vastly lesser amounts on the other two are going to get us where we want to be and get us the community support that we need to continue. I mean, the voters could rescind the project if they rescinded the program if they wanted. So I think we need to keep that in mind and understand what the political realm is of this. So that's just, and maybe I've been too involved in the political realm for too many years, but I see the value of it, and I see that the value of respecting all of the areas that CPA targets. And we're not going to, for any of them, we're not going to be completely able to fund everything that everybody wants. It's just not going to be possible. I mean, the Lars Anderson skating rink is going to have to come up with some money somehow, and that cannot be just CPA. We'll never be able to fund that solely. We did our part to get it going, and it's going to have to fly on its own, and as well as some of the other big recreation projects, for instance. We could provide some seed money or something of that nature, but we're never going to be able to do them solely by ourselves. We just don't. The CPA isn't that deep into a point. Any other questions or comments? Okay, so do we need a vote on allowing all of these projects to be submitted in a full application because they're all eligible? How does the committee want to do that?
So no one has issues with the funding a position for 1 year?
Well, I wouldn't say it like that. I would say, do I think it's a good idea? Generally, no, I don't. I think it sets not a very good precedent. And it's not as if we have a lot of excess money to deal with here. We don't. We're going to have to cut, we are. So I don't think that's a good, frankly, I really regret that CDBG money is being cut. I think what's happening at the federal level is abominable. But I don't think CPA can make up for that. I just don't think we're not going to be able to. I'd love to, but I just don't think that's possible. So that's just my view of it, and I don't know how other committee members feel about it. But it is eligible. That's the question. Not whether we think it's a good idea. That's a policy question. And it's-
Sue wants to say something.
yeah.
Well, your last point is what I was gonna say, is that my understanding is that we're only voting on whether or not they're eligible to proceed to the next level. So that said, I guess, I don't think we have any option but to let them proceed, and if we think they are eligible. And then if we don't want to fund them, then we'll deal with that down the road.
Yeah, I hate for them to have to go through the work of submitting a proposal, but that's just the way the project, that's just the way that it's scheduled. I don't think we can.
Well, we can tell them, we think it's like a bad idea. I think it's a terrible idea, and I think it's a bad precedent. And as it is, a lot of the money that we allocate goes to the town. But this is just sort of making up the gap in their budget, and I just don't see that that's a good way for us to utilize our funds.
I'm dubious about it as well. I mean, maybe we should try to talk them out. I mean, they may technically be eligible, but
Yeah, well, I think that's the problem. They are technically eligible, but I do think that Kara's here, and so she's heard what we're having to say here about the committee's having to say about it. And it sounds like at least 4 of us are.
You say they're technically qualified, but that's the way Stuart sort of interpreted the position, that they're only going to work on CPA projects. Is that really true? I don't know. I mean, it's sort of Stuart's inference.
Right.
Yeah, and
I question that even.
no, I'm totally with the rest of the group. I have my reservations too, and Clara, as you said, what is to say that you're funding a position, but it's you're funding a town position, and what is there to guarantee that's just a CPA kind of a project
Right.
that they're going to be working on?
They didn't want to see studies, because that's not, they really want to see projects that, anyway, I mean, that's the one that concerns me, of whether it's qualified or not.
I would also, just a small correction. I see Lindsay did add the public housing redevelopment study. The full project cost is $200,000. The CPA ask was 100, and the other 100 was going to come from BHA reserves.
Okay.
And I believe that's clearly eligible, correct? So again, that's another one we'll have to, have to consider when we get to the bottom line.
Yeah.
Right.
And, I think it's good feedback for planning department that we're not. I'm sorry, what? Was somebody speaking?
That was my wife. I didn't get her in.
Okay, but I think it's good feedback that the majority of the committee is not in favor of that one. And the precedent, kind of precedent was set. Okay, so shall we go take the projects one at a time and vote on them, and then to move forward as eligible projects or not?
And can't we?
Why don't we just do it entirely?
Yeah.
Go through each one. I mean, does anyone have any objection to any of the ones that were on the list? Maybe we could do it that way.
Well, I think people are saying they have an objection to the public health one. I think it is.
Yes.
I think it's a policy issue and not an eligibility issue.
Correct.
at
I agree.
least,
Public health.
But
Not public health, not public health.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean public health. I meant planning, housing. planner, a housing planner, basically. And I hate to, doing a grant is a lot of work. So I hate to see them do a lot of work if the committee is not gonna be favorably inclined.
Well, we could leave that up to the planning department to decide whether they want to go through the effort,
Right. Right.
knowing that we're dubious.
All right. So do you want to vote on them all together and then we'll just,
Accepting the, do we want to, accept the planning office one and not, and leave that one, continued rather than approved or unapproved?
okay, we could do that.
I'll second that.
Okay, so the motion is to approve accepting the, community housing, through the planning office. And I'll second that.
So you want to have that motion first? Okay. So the motion on the table is for us to not approve or disapprove, but to just to continue the decision until a later.
Nancy, I thought it was to approve all of them,
Yes, that's right.
except for the,
You're saying that?
Yeah.
Okay, your
Right.
voice is a little muffled, Blair. I don't know whether you're.
It was to approve the exception of the community housing development. All right, sorry.
I'm having trouble
That was
understanding.
even more muffled. Sorry.
What?
That was even more muffled, what Blair just.
Yeah. All right.
Sorry.
So we're
Go ahead,
so the motion is to move all of them forward. Is that, am I understanding?
it's my understanding the motion is to move all of them forward except for the public housing redevelopment and
That's what I was
planning grant.
No, I thought, I'm sorry. I
Okay.
thought it was to move
Let's-
forward except for the proposed senior housing planner funding. That's what I thought.
Yeah, the public housing one had nothing to do with what.
Oh,
no.
I'm sorry. I've got the wrong one. I thought it was for, the
Okay,
community housing hire staff, except for the
Okay,
community
let me do this.
housing.
Let me have Lindsay put up the list in front of us. And we'll go through them, and as I read them off, you'll say yay or nay. How's that? Because I don't want to make a mistake here. I want to make sure that everybody's clear about what they're voting on. So we have a motion to vote on these proposals, and it's been seconded. So let's go through them one by one. All those in favor or not of the United Parish for 800,000 is eligible to move forward. And all of the question is, are they eligible to move forward?
Yes.
Yes. I'll call your names. I don't see you on the screen, but I remember it. Steve,
Yes.
okay, Sue,
Yes,
Clara,
Yes,
Minnie,
Yes.
Blair,
Yes. Yes.
and the chair votes yes. Okay. Temple Sinai Masonry Restoration. Steve,
Yes.
Sue,
yes,
Clara,
yes,
Minnie,
Yes.
Blair.
Yes.
Chair votes up yes as well. Old Burying Ground Restoration. Steve,
I never saw that one, but yes.
Sue,
yes,
Clara,
yes,
Minnie,
Yes.
Blair,
Yes.
and the chair votes aye. Muddy River Bridge Assessment, that's the stone bridges. Steve,
Yes.
Sue,
yes,
Clara,
yes,
Minnie,
Yes.
Blair,
Yes.
and I vote yes. D. Blakely Hoare Invasive Management. Steve,
Yes.
Sue,
yes,
Clara,
yes,
Minnie,
Yes.
Blair,
Yes.
chair votes aye. Tree assessment in, tree inventory assessment. Now this is one we may encourage them to subsume it under the fiscal year 25 grant, but that doesn't mean that this one, let's vote on this one now as a indication of our acceptance that it's eligible for funds, and hopefully they'll move it. Steve,
Yes.
Sue,
Yes.
Clara,
Yes.
Minnie,
Yes.
Blair,
Yes.
and chair votes aye. The Lawrence Anderson Green Infrastructure Assessment, 500,000. Steve,
Yes.
Sue,
Yes.
Clara,
Yes.
Minnie,
Yes.
Blair,
Yes.
chair votes aye. Okay, Housing Trust. For $1 million. Steve,
Yes.
Sue,
Yes.
Clara,
Yes.
Minnie,
Yes.
Blair,
Yes.
and the chair votes yes. Trustman roof replacement. Steve,
Yes.
Sue,
Yes.
Clara,
Yes.
Minnie, and Blair.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, and chair votes aye. That was for let's see, 855,000. Window replacement at High Street. Okay, this is not actually High Street, but this is High Street
It is.
Veteran.
It is. It's not Walnut High. It's the
Not
other end
Walnut
of
High.
High.
Okay, yeah,
To be clear.
okay. Steve, for 1.1 million. Steve,
Yes.
Sue,
Yes.
Clara,
Yes.
Minnie,
Yes.
Blair,
Yes.
and the chair votes aye as well. Okay. Senior housing planner, this is the thorn in the side, okay. For 99,750. Steve,
This is the one that Blair suggests we continue for further discussion, maybe go
okay,
back
so
to
if
planning.
you want to vote continue, vote
Yes,
continue.
I would vote continue.
Sue,
Continue.
Clara,
Continue.
Minnie,
Continue.
Blair,
Continue.
the chair votes continue. Okay. Family Public Housing Redevelopment Planning Grant, the Housing Authority, 100,000. Steve,
Yes.
Sue,
Yes.
Clara,
Yes.
Minnie,
Yes.
Blair,
Yes.
and the chair votes aye as well. Okay,
Yeah.
and now we approved all of them except we continued the one for the planner, almost 100,000. Okay. So now we just have some housekeeping business here. The upcoming meetings are on September 8th. That was normally scheduled. We didn't have one scheduled for October. And the choices in October are October 6th or October, not the 13th, because that's when, that's Indigenous Peoples Columbus Day.
I will be out of town on the September meeting.
September?
Yes, I will be out of town on vacation that week.
Okay. Well, I'm talking about October now.
I know that. I just wanted to have that on the record.
All right. October 20th. Which do people prefer?
I prefer the 6th because there's a Fisher Hill West Committee meeting on the 20th, at least at 7.
Okay,
If-
Sue,
As currently.
I would do either one.
okay, Clara,
Either one's good for me.
okay, Blair,
So I will go with the 6th.
you like the 6th as well, okay. Okay, Minnie,
Yes.
Hmm.
I'll be coming back from out of town the day before, but that should be so. But that'll be
so the
fine.
6th works for you as well?
Sorry, the 6th? I thought it's the 20th. Sorry.
You like the 20th?
Can you do the
October
6th?
6th?
Can you
Sorry.
do the 6th?
The 6th, I cannot do the 6th. I'm actually going to be on a plane.
Okay. Okay, so what we'll have to do is confer with the other couple of members and see, Arisa and
Sam.
Sam and somebody else.
Oh, and David.
David, yeah. Okay, so we'll
So-
have to,
So you want us to hold, if we can, the 6th and the 20th as of
please
now?
hold the 6th and the 20th if you can, yep. Okay, and so next meeting, we could discuss, Minnie and Steve, can you keep us informed as to whether you'll be ready to discuss the evaluation rubric on the 6th, or you just want to move it to the October meeting?
You know,
Let-
the,
Minnie, go ahead.
sorry. I was just going to say that the October 6th, I think I said that I won't be there, but happy to do it on September.
Yeah, if we're gonna do it, let's do it. And Minnie and you and I need to probably have a chat offline about this.
Yes, totally, 100%.
And we're still talking about 5:30 to 7:30 as a
Right.
time frame.
And on the 8th, we'll also have a tutorial about our folder and how the town is organized in. And, you know, if you have suggestions for something we can do within the rubric of, or the structure of the town's IT, you know, we can do that. We can try to work that out. The other thing is, no, I think we took care of everything. And other business, we didn't need to discuss the vote. We'd had an earlier vote on the status of the 25 grants. And we're in favor of letting them, you know, flipping over the 3,500 and also hopefully encouraging the other ones to finish up, you know?
Thought we voted for or what are you talking, 7,000, right?
Yeah, and voted for 7,000 for the flipping the using the tree inventory money, and we'll vote again on September 8th, hopefully for the 10,000 and maybe even for the 70 this year. You know, excuse me, I'm gonna decline that. Okay. Okay, so anybody else have anything else to add? or
Lindsay,
question?
will you send us that nice list you typed up and you added the one thing that was like, just so we have a
Yep,
list of everything?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Was there any public comment from Sean Lynn or from Kara Bruton?
This is Kara speaking. Just wanted to say thank you all, and I'll talk with Lindsay about some ideas, and I appreciate the clarity of recommendation. Thanks, guys.
Okay,
No comments. Thank you very much.
okay, thank you, Sean. Okay. All right, so we're ready to adjourn?
Okay,
All right, I have a motion.
So moved.
A second,
Okay, Clara moves and Sue seconds. Steve,
Yes.
Sue,
yes.
Clara,
Yes.
Blair,
yes.
Minnie.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, everyone.
10 minutes early.
The summer.
All right,
Enjoy it while it lasts.
okay.
Okay, thanks.